All right, guys. So today I'm going to break down a essay, if you will, I suppose, or whatever you want to call this, a link from Psychology Today. It's a blog, actually, from a guy named Noam Schfanzer. I don't know how to say his name. Noam Schfanzer. He's an insight therapist, apparently. This essay is from 2013, or article, I guess you could say, from Psychology Today. It was published in May 4th, 2013. It's called "The Price of Sex: Women Rule, Men Drool, the Market's Cruel." Okay, so apparently that's some kind of play on words there, some kind of little quip. So I'm gonna read this, and then I'm gonna talk about my thoughts about it. So buckle in. This is gonna be a long read, but it's very, very insightful. I'm gonna put a link to it in the description. Let me just talk about it for a second before I start reading. This is something that I've, pretty much since about actually when around the time this article was released, I sort of grasped, and this is why a lot of men go MGTOW. And I just released a video called "Take Back the Sexual Market." Place. Men need to take back the sexual marketplace. I don't know if it's possible because there's such a high price, there's such a high value on female sex. But with that said, let's just jump right into it. So like I said, I'm going to read this and then I'm going to comment on it as I'm reading. First off, let me just say that I feel like this is 100% truth. And I feel like this is something that we just do not talk about in society. And men, I think, particularly like PUA men, PUA, pickup artists, what they're trying to do is they're trying to, uplift a man in order to compensate for this sexual market power that women have over men. So I just want to sort of illustrate that before I start talking about this, because I feel like a lot of what happens is people get confused and they think, oh, MGTOW guys are just losers, and guys need to adapt and guys need to become better. And I've heard women say this constantly, oh, you need to step your game up. Well, the game is rigged. The game is rigged in females' favor. And this article is going to talk about why, right? So MGTOW guys, can take a breath of fresh air in the fact that they're not alone, and their solution might not just be, such a silly one. It might not just be that they're such losers, etc. There's a reason that they're walking away from this game. There's a reason why they're opting out, because the ball is not in their court. The odds are not in their favor. So with that said, let me just jump right into it. Again, this is an article written in May 4th, 2013 by a guy named Noam Spencer, PhD. All right. Sex is commonly thought of as a private, intimate event that occurs between closed doors. We like to think of making love in its personal, romantic context. We often describe or imagine the sexual event as an ecstatic occurrence bathed in candlelight and fragrant incense, with satin sheets and silk handcuffs, hot bubble bath, smooth berry white, and cold bubbly. This is all well and good, but viewing the sexual act as a private mind-body event can obscure important truths about its deep nature and meaning. Soft whispers and passionate kisses tell a story of sex, but not the whole story, and not always the most interesting or important part of it. Hence, the importance of scientific theorizing and observation, which seek to explore the sexual encounter from different surprising perspectives in an attempt to understand the event fully and place the private scene in its surrounding social context. So essentially he's saying, well, although most people think of it as this, what it might actually be is something else if you look at it from an objective viewpoint. If you look at it from, hey, what's really going on? And this is something that I've been doing for years and years and years, even before I discovered MGTOW. And this is something that I think MGTOW men are doing, is MGTOW men are very self-aware and they're very socially aware, particularly even psychosocially aware. They're wondering, why are people doing things what they're doing? They're wondering, why is society behaving like it's behaving, and how does this involve me? Why do I keep getting these bad relationships? Why do I keep getting these bad women, etc.? And they sort of theorize about it, and they call this taking the red pill, meaning you look at the truth and you observe the truth and you say, hey, this is what's going on objectively. How does this involve me, and what can I do about it, right? So let me go on here. The American psychology researcher Roy Baumeister of Florida State University has been advancing for some time now an interesting theory that analyzes the sexual act from an economic perspective. That's brilliant. According to Baumeister, heterosexual sex could be understood as a marketplace in which men are the buyers and women are the sellers. According to this analysis, sex is essentially a female resource. This is 100% what I've been feeling for a long, long time. Sex is leverage. Sex is a resource. Sex is something that women use to get social benefits, financial benefits, etc. They rely on the state, etc. This is 100% what women are doing. They're leveraging sex because they know that this is what they have over men. Okay, let me go on. According to this analysis, sex is essentially a female resource. In other words, female sexual activity is much in demand and has high social value, in contrast to male activity. This is why a couple years ago, when I started doing MGTOW videos, I started to illustrate female sexuality as a commodity. I started to view women as a commodity and sex as a resource being sold by women to further their hypergamy, etc. Right? So this is something where it's not like whenever a woman says, "Oh yes, we're all equal, sex is equal, and everything's equal between us," that's 100% bullshit. This is why, because women are leveraging sex and they're using sex as a resource, as a resource to get personal gain, right? Okay. A woman's sexual consent is a valuable asset that may command a high price. Because his sex has no value in the market, the man seeking to purchase female sex is required to bring other valuable social resources to the transaction, such as attention, time, love, respect, commitment, money, status, etc. Right? So what is that? That's an exchange. So she's using sex as leverage to exchange for these things that she wants and she feels like she needs, right? Which is, I believe that's fundamentally dishonest. I believe that's fundamentally, at the very least, it's fundamentally unequal, right? So you can't say, "Oh yes, men and women are equal," yet men aren't doing this. Men aren't leveraging sex to get things, yet women are. So how can you be equal if you're doing that? That's obviously an inequality, right? What makes female sex so valuable? The ultimate reason lies with evolution. Evolutionary speaking, man's investment in the sexual act and the risk he is taking are minimal. On the other hand, his pleasure, orgasm, is guaranteed, and each sexual encounter increases his chances for more offspring. The female's investment in a sexual act and the risk she is taking are in contrast very high. The risk of death from complications of pregnancy or childbirth, her pleasure is not guaranteed, and having sex with multiple men does not increase her chances of getting more offspring. Yet she does have multiple partners, and yet women do have lots of sex. So that theory is kind of therefore sex for men. I mean, I'm not saying that there's not some truths in that, but yet what women do and what this says are probably two different things. Therefore, sex for men is a no. Not to say that I don't agree with this. Okay, so therefore, sex for men is a no risk, high profit investment, right? That's not true at all. There's lots of risk for men. Men can get STDs, men can get their heart broken, men can have an unwanted baby. So I disagree with that as well. For a woman, the equation is reversed. Thus, the supply of female interest in sex is reduced, and since male demand is high, the price rises. So I don't know if I ultimately agree with all that. I think there's truths in that. I think that those things are true, but I don't agree that men have no risk. I think it's a product of gynocentrism. I think that because there's such a over sexualization and such a focus on women and such an uplifting of women, that women are using that kind of psychology as leverage to get things that they want, which is fundamentally dishonest and it's fundamentally wrong, and it fundamentally doesn't help them most of the time. Much of the time it hurts them because they're actually not finding real love, and they're just using their beauty and sex as as a sort of bartering system, which oftentimes does not help them in the long run. Although one can make a wonderful argument that that's all marriage is an exchange of sex for resources, an exchange of beauty and sex for security, right? The man provides the home that the woman lives in, security, and then of course if you bring in the concept of female equality and that women can now work and take care of themselves, etc., then that changes up that whole equation. And then what do you have? Then then women have to actually work for things that they get, which is an interesting concept. That's where feminism actually might benefit men, is if men don't have to play into this hypergamy, play into this sexual bartering, and women actually have to stand up and put their money where their mouth is and actually earn their own money and things like that, and not use men for, for the benefits, then that's can work in men's favor. Anyway, let me go on. In addition, says Baumeister, the sexual motivation gap between men and women puts men at a disadvantage in sex negotiations. That's very true. Scientific evidence suggests that male sexual motivation is in general is higher than female motivation. I don't know if it's motivation that is exactly there. Women have just as much sex, if not more sex, than men because the market is in their favor. So I don't know if it's sexual motivation. I don't think women are not motivated to have sex. I just think women, because of hypergamy, they have sex in different ways, right? That's my take on it. So let me go on. The population of people who want sex but do not get it is almost exclusively male all over the world. That's probably true. Among the couples reporting a gap between ideal and reality, most of those who complain about wanting more sex than they get are men. Probably true. I think women are having a lot more sex than most men. I think most women are having a lot more sex than most men because women have more power in the sexual market. Men, as a rule, lead all measures of sexual interest, such as fantasies. Men, as a rule, lead all measures of sexual interest, such as fantasies about sex, consumption of pornography, and prostitution, masturbation, etc. Man's heightened motivation for sex puts him at a disadvantage because, according to the well-known principle of least interest, the one less invested or motivated in a relationship controls it. I think that's very true. Very, very true. Women are less interested in the relationship because they have more power in the relationship, so they often control the relationship. This is why women seek after guys who they can't have, because women want to be chasing, although the answer to that equation is just mutuality, but it's very difficult to get people to agree and actually mutually love people. Very difficult to do that, particularly when there's such a more emphasis on female sexuality. It's very easy for a woman to consolidate her power, be selfish and narcissistic, and not try to co-opt with a man, not try to fraternize with one man only because she wants to abuse that power. It's very easy to abuse power as humans, right? For example, if you love your partner more than he loves you, and you are more invested in the relationship than he is, then control of the relationship rests with him, and vice versa. The one who's in love will do everything to save the relationship, even if it costs them big concessions. And this often happens. This is why domestic violence is so high, because there's an imbalance in that, like I said, that mutuality. One person is more invested in the relationship than the other person, and you get all kinds of problems from that. According to this principle, the fact that women are less sexually needy and motivated for sex puts them in a position of power in sexual negotiations. That's very, very true. They're in a position of power from the start, and this is why when women talk about equality and a woman can do the same thing a man can do, that's why that is just 100% bullshit, because women have most of the power in the sexual market value. Women are the buyers, women are the sellers, men are the buyers. So men are coming to the table having to buy the women already, right? Another reason why female sex has become a valued resource is related in all likelihood to human social history, in which without exception, men have controlled most of society's resources, money, status, and power positions. In such a situation, sex has been one of the few assets that women could leverage for obtaining other valuable social goods, such as power, status, and money. I think that's very true. I think because men have controlled the world, that women's only, power play, so to speak, their only means of leverage has been sex. This isn't to say that that's okay. It isn't to say that that's the answer. It's just that this is how women have often adapted, and it's not it's not a good thing. Okay, so Baumeister's analysis of the sexual marketplace then assumes that sex is not just a private matter, but a part of the socio-economic system, just as buying a house is not just a private act, but part of a system. So this is something that systematizes sex. So sex has become something of system. Sex has become a sort of business tool, and this is why I talk about commodity a lot of times when I do these videos. Is I talk about women use sex as a commodity, and they market themselves as such, as if their pussies are a business, as if their sex is a business, as if their love is a business, and this is something that's very sick. Okay, so just as buying a house is not just a private act, but part of a system, according to this analysis, the price of sex depends in part on social and environmental conditions, just as housing prices are so dependent. So it fluctuates depending on the environment and social conditions. Thus, for example, in societies where women outnumber men, the price of sex is bound to drop because supply, feminine sex, exceeds demand, men looking for sex. In such a society, we can expect the emergence of more permissive norms for women. A case in point is the current American university, where women are the majority, men are few, and casual sex, no strings or rings attached, has become normative. In this analysis, the sexual woman may be likened to a property owner looking to sell. It makes sense for her to advertise, market, price, and position her property correctly in order to create increased demand and end up with the best deal. This is 100% true. This is what women are doing. They're trying to get the best deal, so they're holding out for the best guy, and this is where hypergamy comes in. This is why so many relationships fail, because they always feel like they could do better, and they're always trying to push the man they're currently with to be better so they can get the best, which is not love. It has nothing to do with love has nothing to do with sustaining a long-term relationship. Essentially, women are turning sex and relationships into a business deal, which is very fucked up. Okay, this analysis, claims Baumeister, can illustrate anew the ongoing debate between, on the one hand, women who claim the right to dress as sexually as they wish without being labeled sluts and subjected to degrading treatment, and on the other hand, men who think a woman who dresses classy is doing so because she wants to have sex with them. Or excuse me, a woman who dresses sexy is doing so because she wants to have sex with them. So really that's kind of that's an interesting point there, is because it's like, well, why are women dressing sexy? Because they're advertising something. They're advertising themselves as a commodity. They're advertising themselves as, as sexual so they can gain something. This is a buyer-seller frame. This is a business type scenario, business type system that they're setting up, which is, again, that's sick. That's sick. If we view sexy dress as advertising and public relations of a property owner who wishes to sell, we understand that such an owner would want to stimulate interest in as many potential buyers as possible, not because she aims to sell to all of them, but because she seeks to find the one optimal buyer. So this is essentially women selling sex. This is women prostituting themselves. This is why women dress up like that, because they're selling themselves to the best buyer. This is why this is why hypergamy exists, because men are constantly trying to, better themselves so they can buy that sex, and it's fucking sick. This is why relationships don't work. This is why women go through guys like tissue. This is why women use sex to get a relationship, because they have viewed sex as something that is a exchange of resources. That's sick. That's why relationships don't work. That's why they're constantly single. That's why they constantly are just fucking and sucking every dude, because they're trying to impress the guy using sex, as opposed to impressing the guy based on their personality, as opposed to impressing the guy or falling in love with a guy based on things in common, or the fact that they love somebody. If you sell yourself like that, you're essentially commoditizing yourself. So don't complain when all men want from you is sex, because that's what you're selling. You're not selling anything based on your personality. You're not selling anything based on your character. You're not selling anything based on love. You're selling something based on sex. So you want to get all those things, and you want to use sex as leverage, and that's not the way you do it. You're essentially trying to purchase love. You're essentially trying to purchase the best guy and the best relationship using sex as your tool, as your as your money source. That's fucked up. That's wrong. Okay, so let me go on. Thus viewed, an attractively dressed woman conveys an interest in finding a suitable partner, not in finding many partners. Well, the proof is in the pudding that says opposite of that. Actually, women do find many partners. It's because the guys don't want to, like I just said, guys don't want, the irony is women think that all guys want is sex, but they're wrong. Guys want something deeper, and this is why these relationships never work out, because guys are deeper than you think we are. We're not just fuck tools. We're not just means to an end. We're not just resource manufacturers. We want love too. This is why when a woman puts sex first and she uses sex as leverage, this is why relationships never work out. Okay, in addition, the theory posits that men, given their position as consumers in the market, will seek to lower the price of sex. The inherent interest of female asset owners, however, is to raise the price. According to this analysis, the concepts of free love will be adopted by men more vigorously than by women. Women, on the other hand, will mobilize more vigorously to fight against pornography and prostitution because these institutions allow man easy access to female sex and thus reduce the value of the property. I think there's some truth in that. I think that makes some sense because it's like, you know, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? So women are trying to even further commoditize and further corner the market on the sexual aspect. In general, it pays for women to operate as a cartel and cooperate to ensure a high price for sex, just as OPEC ensures high oil prices by controlling coordinated supply. That's true. I think women are doing that. They're 100% trying to do that, and they don't realize that, again, that's a flawed way to go about finding love. That's a flawed way to go about finding a relationship. The theory therefore predicts that the effort to neutralize and shame sexually permissive women will come mainly from other women, not men. Yes, that's why women are motivated to shame each other. This is why women want to hide the fact that they're a slut mostly to other women, whereas they're fine with advertising themselves as a slut to men because men are their potential buyers and men have less value. The reason why they don't want other women to know is because women are trying to co-opt and corner the market on the sex. So if a woman's having a lot of sex, then the other women look at her like she's giving it away for free. Like, hey, you're supposed to be selling this product. Why are you giving that product away for free? So therefore, they look down on that woman. And this is 100% true. Most of the slut shaming comes from other women, doesn't come from men, because men are the ones who are benefiting from the woman slutting. It just makes sense. Of course, there's a lot of MGTOW men who are like, yeah, I don't want some woman who's just used goods, and those guys actually are coming at it from a viewpoint of morality and righteousness, and they're coming at it from a viewpoint of actual love, which is even better than the viewpoint of women who are only coming at it from a financial sort of aspect or a sexual market leverage aspect, which is sick. Anyway, so. It is let's see, because permissive women allow men easy access to the resource and thus lower its market value, right? That's what I just said. It is no coincidence, Baumeister points out, that sexual women are often termed cheap. Indeed, studies show that women judge sexually permissive women more harshly than do men. In general, women tend to hold more negative views toward these behaviors that contribute to lowering the price of sex. Again, it's just turning sex into a commodity. It's turning it into a business, right? Which is horrible. Like sex before or outside of marriage, casual sex, etc. According to the research, even the famous double standard whereby a man with many partners is considered a stud, while a multi-partnered woman is considered a slut, is maintained primarily by women, not by men. Right. So he's saying that women actually uplift men who have a lot of sexual partners more than more than men uplift women who have a lot of sexual partners, which is a mind fuck. Anyway, according to Baumeister, female sexual property consists of two parts. The first part, a woman's very interest in sex, is an asset that is not degradable. That's not true. A woman's very interest in sex is not degradable, but a woman herself is degradable. So her sexual market value does have a shelf life. Her sexual market value does have a expiration date. Sorry to say, because she will only be as wanted as her, if all she has to offer is sex, if all she has to offer is her physical beauty, that gets tainted, that lowers as time goes on, and she won't be able to employ that for a very long time. Her 20s, and then after she hits 30, it's going to drop, and then after she hits 40, it's going to drop drastically, and at some point, it's just, you can't do that forever is the point, right? So the second part, a woman ready for sex will always arouse interest. Well, not always. Like I said, and when she hits the wall, that's not going to, when she starts to go downhill in her looks, that's not going to hold up. The second part, her reputation and good name, is an inherently degradable property and may be exhausted by irresponsible management. Well, that's very true. Yes, and then that's why this is why women try to hide their doings. This is why they try to hide their sluttiness and try to hide their deeds, because they know that it's connected to their reputation is connected to their value. So this is why women are shady. This is why women lie. This is why they creep around behind guys' backs, which is just, it adds to the fuckery. A compliment is worth more if it comes from someone who's stingy with compliments. According to this analysis, women will seek to limit their number of partners and conceal their sexual activities in order to protect their reputation. That's what I just said. Although I don't think they're going to limit. Well, yes, I would agree with that. Indeed, studies have frequently shown that women underreport the number of sexual partners they had. Exactly. If a woman ever says like, "Oh, I've had 3 partners. I've only been with 3 guys," and then you can go ahead and multiply that by 10. Baumeister's view predicts, in addition, that the pressure to maintain the high value of female sex will be greater in societies that exclude women from access to other sources of social power. Now, I just want to say here, what's the answer to that? Like women feel like they're trapped. The answer is to stop being a slut. The answer is to stop leveraging your sex. If you want love, stop using your pussy as a means to get it. Stop using your pussy as a commodity. Figure out what love really is and figure out how to get it if that's what you want. If you want all that validation, if you want that power, then by all means continue to do what you're doing, but you're not going to get love. You can't have both. You can't have a really good relationship and really good love and really satisfying sex with a bunch of multiple partners. It's just not going to work like that. Women don't work like that. It's just not how it works, which is where women get caught up. Baumeister's view predicts, in addition, that the pressure to maintain the high value of female sex will be greater in societies that exclude women from access to other sources of social power. Which is why in America that should be very, very much reduced, because now we have genuine equality where women can go out and work for it. So now the question is, can they actually go out and work for it, or are they going to continue to rely and fall back on this fail-safe of a plan, this sex leverage? Are they going to continue to rely on using sex, or are they actually going to go out and work for it now that they have genuine equality, now that there is an open market for women to do anything a man can do? That's the irony, and that's where it's like, okay, well, now you got your freedom. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to continue to exploit men for our resources using sex, or are you going to actually work for it and put your money where your mouth is, ladies? You had this feminism, you had this freedom, you had this social rights movement. Now what are you going to do? You're just going to go do porn and take the easy route? Or are you actually going to get a career and you're actually going to work for it, right? Conversely, when women are free to pursue positions of power and influence in society and become independent, their reliance on leveraging sex for social assets will decrease. It should, hopefully, unless they exploit it and take the easy route, which is what women unfortunately are doing in the Western world. Studies support this prediction, and it's very easy to just fall back on that. Oh, I have this power over sex. Well, I'll just use this to get this. It's very easy to get corrupted with that when you have that power, which is why I tell men, I hope that men would stop giving them that power, but I don't know. Studies support this prediction. Stringent restrictions around female virginity, modesty, etc., are more common in patriarchal societies that exclude women. Inversely, restrictions on female sexual behavior diminish as societies open and allow women easy, direct access to the resources of power, money, and influence. Hopefully this happens. And we might see it in the next generation. We might be in a generation where women are coming off of being a patriarchal society from the 40s and 50s and before then, and women are learning how to adapt, and we might see it in the younger generation. Guys who are in their 30s and 40s might start seeing women in their 20s and 30s, probably not 30s, but women who are in their teens and 20s start to actually stop using sex as leverage. We'll see. We don't know, because this is something that I believe is ingrained in female biology, and it has a lot to do with nature and adaptation and things like that. But we do have a free market. We do have an open society now for women to achieve things. So are you going to use that, ladies, or are you going to continue to fall back on that leverage that you have? And it's not real power. It's fake, and it doesn't get you what you think you really want in life. It might get you some things, but it's not going to genuinely create genuine happiness, because you're not earning it, and because, well, anyway, you will probably find out if you live that way. You'll find out that it's not going to work for you. Okay. In summary, the analysis of sex, from an economic perspective that sees sex as a commodity owned by women, leads to a series of testable predictions, many of which have found support in the literature. Such analysis can help us understand our own behavior, and that and that of our partners more clearly and sharpen our ability to foresee the future. Such analysis may also stimulate our sexual imagination as much as flowers, flickering candles, and the touch of silk sheets, although it cannot, of course, replace them. So that's it for this article. What's my ultimate thought? My ultimate thought is that you can't use sex as leverage to get love. It doesn't work. And you might get some things, but you're not going to get genuine love. You might think you're going to get genuine love, but it's not working. And the proof is in the pudding. Divorce is at 60+% now. Women are not finding love. They're more unhappy than ever. And this is why and it's like, hello, wake up. Stop using sex to get love. Stop using sex. Stop using that power. Yes, you have that power, but stop using it. Stop abusing it. If you go into a relationship, and you actually say, I'm going to actually work at this relationship, and this is going to be a genuine, real relationship for love, and you communicate, and you have the foundation of love as the basis for that relationship, then that's a good start to a relationship. Although a relationship requires work, it requires, there's going to be ups and downs and things like that. The temptation for a woman is to just pull out when things get a little rough. The temptation is to just go find somebody else because they have this sexual market, and because they realize that there's a time frame on their sexuality, because once they hit 30, once they hit 40, once their looks start to depreciate, they're no longer going to be a commodity that's sought after. But that's sick. You can't systematize and businessize and resourceize yourself, because you're essentially a prostitute. You're prostituting yourself out for the highest bidder, for the highest resource, and it never works. It's not something that is viable, because it's just not. It just doesn't work, and it's evident in our society. So that's all I got to say. This is something that I talk about all the time. This is something that is pretty common, but it's just that I came across this article, so I wanted to really talk about it and break it down. But it's a sad thing, because it's like, what if men just used money? I mean, men do. I think men do use money to get relationships, and that's sad. It's like, oh, so the only thing men have to bring to the table is their money. What about their personality? What about their sense of humor? What about their sense of imagination? What about their genuine, unique personality? That's what you should fall in love with somebody for. And you should fall in love with somebody based on the fact that you want to love them, based on the fact that you want to be faithful to that person, and then based on the fact you want to have a relationship with that person, and that person feels the same way. Not because you're leveraging sex, not because you're leveraging money, not because you're leveraging resources in exchange for commitment, security in exchange for commitment. That's like a prostitution. That's a different form of prostitution. That's a long-term form of prostitution. Okay, I'm going to give you this security, and I'm going to give you my resources for the next 60 years until we die, and in exchange you're going to give me companionship and love. It's just like, companionship, love, and sex. It's just like, well, that really kind of, I don't know, man. That doesn't feel genuine. Okay, so if I lose my resources, then you're gonna go find somebody who will give me that business. Or if, say, you lose your looks, then I'm gonna go find a woman who's hotter than you. You age, and then I'm gonna go find a 19-year-old. And this is why this is why guys cheat. This is why women cheat. This is why people aren't faithful, because it's like, how obvious does it have to be? Stop basing love in a relationship on things that are transient. You can lose your looks. You will lose your sexual market value. A man could lose his money. Okay. Those things happen. And so if that happens, then your relationship is toast, because your relationship is built on the wrong foundation. It's built on the wrong things. You're building your relationship on something that is not love and not genuine interest in one person. Oh, I'm going to go seek some famous guy. I'm going to be a gold digger. I'm going to be a status chaser. And I'm only going to date guys who have high status. I'm only going to date guys who pick up the bill. And I'm only going to date women who have nice tits. I'm only going to date women who look young. And so you have this constant seeking of things that are just not real. Guys are constantly seeking for money and resources in order to impress a woman, and a woman is constantly seeking to have nicer tits and have bigger ass and be better looking. And it's sick. This is why women get plastic surgery. This is why women do abnormal things to make themselves more attractive, because they're looking for the wrong things. They are essentially prostituting themselves out for the wrong things. And men are constantly looking for the wrong things. Men are constantly looking for the wrong things in women, the younger woman, the prettier woman, and there's nothing that implies love there. There's nothing that implies a genuine relationship there. That's just sick. That's just sick. But why are people doing that? I don't know. Do they not know any better? I mean, it's like, why has no one raised them to really want love? Love is beautiful. Genuine love is beautiful. It's patient. If you want to know what love is, read 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not seek its own things. Love is not puffed up. I mean, that's it, man. If you love somebody, you're not gonna. I would also add love to some extent is possessive. You're not going to want to, oh, okay, if you love me, you're going to let me go sleep with other guys. If you love me, you're gonna let me have my freedom. And that's another distortion. No, if I love you, you're gonna be faithful to me, and I'm gonna be faithful to you, because that's what real love is. You're not gonna go sleep with other guys. I'm not gonna, oh yes, I love you, so I'm gonna let you go. And no, that's just what women say when they're done with a relationship with a guy, when they want to go seek some other dick. They want to go seek the greener pastures. No, you work on a relationship. You work on a relationship. That's what love is. You love somebody, you got to build that love, you got to foster that love. And it's a long-term thing. But if you have that foundation of love, if your foundation is finances and the exchange of sex for money, I mean, that's just sick. That's like you're turning your life into a business. And I don't know, I don't even understand that. Like, I don't understand how people would feel like that could create happiness or any kind of long-term gratification. It's like, no, you're not going to be comfortable and happy long term if you got into a relationship just because the finances were there, just because the guy had social status, just because this. It's like, no, you're attracted to someone and you fall in love with that person, and you be faithful to that person despite their financial situation. And women lose their looks, and guys, if you got to understand, if you get into a long-term relationship with a woman, she's going to depreciate. If her only value to you is her sexual, physical attractiveness, that's going to depreciate. So just like a guy could lose his money, just like a guy might not be the richest for the rest of his life. He might not be the best viable option. There might be richer guys out there for you. Oh, so you're gonna cheat on him? You're gonna dump him and go find another guy because you found some better dick, or you found some better dick, but also you found some better resources. It's just like, no, man. Or this guy's more intimate than the other guy, and oh, I want this guy because he treats me better and he buys me flowers and he takes me on dates and this guy doesn't. It's just like you're being fundamentally unfaithful. You're being fundamentally unfaithful. If you love somebody, you have to love that person despite their faults. Oh, okay, he needs to be more romantic. He needs to take you on more dates. Well, voice that. Ask him. Tell him to do that. Oh, he should just know. Really? I mean, guys aren't mind readers, and we don't always know what you want ahead of time before you even know that you want it. Voice and tell us what you want. Oh, you want us to be more romantic? Tell us. I want you to be more romantic. Okay, then we'll start to be more romantic. And it's just, that's what a relationship is. But like, oh no, I want a guy to wine and dine me. Well, guys aren't going to wine and dine you forever for the rest of your life. What are you, a canary in a cage? Are you you're a human being. We might love you, and we might need to learn to be more romantic. That's fine. But you're not just going to exchange us and find the better version of us. That's not what love is, right? All right, so that's all I got to say on that. Appreciate you listening to Jay Lee Northwest Podcast. Peace.